After 43 years in an at times uneasy marriage, are the UK and Europe heading for divorce? It's a question causing ripples across the continent. In the Netherlands, for example, where it's estimated a vote for Brexit could cost $10 billion in lost trade.
My wife works at the British School, which is an international school with about...
Englishman Mike Waters has lived in the Dutch city of Leiden for 15 years advising start-up companies. It's not just the effect on business that he worries about if his compatriots vote to leave.
I might feel a little bit sad when I come back and I have to go in the passport queue that's not for the EU. Then that makes you feel a little bit more of a stranger coming in and less of a feeling of coming home.
However, it's in the corridors of power in Brussels that the anxiety about a potential vote for Brexit is most palpable. EU leaders have even been appealing directly to British voters.
Stay with us. We need you. Without you, not only Europe, but the whole Western and transatlantic community will become weaker. Together, we will be able to cope with increasingly difficult challenges of the future.
Well, when I started working for the European Parliament, we were working in a small building about half a mile away. Everything was a much smaller scale.
Francis Cole has worked for the EU for 35 years as a translator and administrator. So obviously he wants the UK to remain. Except he doesn't. 3 decades of witnessing the organisation at first hand has persuaded him that it's time for Britain to cut its ties with Brussels.
I've always been loyal to the individual job that I've done for them as an interpreter. But deep down, I've listened to what they've been saying. And I've grown in my view that the European Union is not what it set out to be. They're now moving in the direction of, the dissolution of individual nation member states, and I don't believe in that.
And if the EU can't persuade some of its own employees of its merits, how can it persuade Eurosceptic voters in Britain? Ever since Britain took its seat at the European table, there's always been a slight irritation in Brussels that the UK hasn't fully embraced the EU's ideals, refusing to sign up for the single currency or the freedom of movement deal, for example. But the prospect of the UK leaving altogether is causing huge concern here. The phrase you keep hearing is political contagion. If Britain votes to leave, will other members eventually want to follow suit?
Perhaps France, maybe next, if the far right really continues to make progress there. Perhaps Denmark, where you have a tradition of, let's say, more left-wing Euroscepticism, maybe next. Also Central and Eastern Europe are quite shaky given the anger that exists there.
So nervous times for many here, and an acknowledgement that even if the UK decides to remain and patch up its relationship with the EU, it's likely to be a relationship on very different terms.